So everybody, phase transition. Phase transition is defined in Regulation 2 of the Special Educational Needs and Disability Regulations 2014, otherwise known as SEND Regs 2014, as a transfer from early years education to school, infant school to junior school, primary school to middle school, primary school to secondary school, middle school to secondary school, or secondary school to a post-16 institution. Whenever a post-16 course is due to finish at the end of the school year, that also counts as a phase transition. Very often, it's also known as a phase transfer. If your child has an EHCP and is moving from one of these schools to a new one in September 2025 because a phase of education has finished, for example, from primary to secondary school, your child is in phase transition. And that means that things should already have happened this term. This term, your child should have had an EHCP review, no matter whether this was due or not. All children in phase transition have to have an EHCP review by the autumn term in the school year in which they'll be leaving their current phase. At this meeting, you should have had the opportunity to formally name your parental preference schools. You may also have been asked to fill in preference forms outside of this process. Your school should have sent the meeting report and your parent report together with any professional advice to the local authority and anyone else who attended the meeting. If you haven't had it, you must ask for it. These things haven't happened yet, Anna. What would you say was the next step?
Well, it's certainly not too late. You're cutting it fine, but there is time. If you're sitting there now thinking this hasn't happened yet, I haven't had this phased transition review, which must have happened, don't panic is the first thing really. But you do need to get into your school tomorrow and urgently ask for it to be arranged. If you've been asking for it and it hasn't happened, you need to take a bit more firm action than that. Or if you go in tomorrow and the school say we're not doing one, it's not necessary, whatever reason they give you. If you've already tried and it hasn't worked, or you go in tomorrow and you're told no, then you are going to have to really not take no for an answer. If that still doesn't work and your school is not going to arrange the meeting, you're going to have to think about putting in a formal complaint with your local authority. Now, you do that online using their formal complaints process. I'm not going to go into details, but there's a clip in our YouTube channel that explains how to do that. It talks you through step by step. So if you find yourself in the position where you haven't had your annual review meeting, your school is refusing or says they can't do it, your local authority are not responding, go straight in and get a formal complaint in and use the clip in the YouTube channel. Also, it would be really helpful if you haven't already seen it to watch our transition review webinar. It will explain exactly how you can prepare and make the best use of the transition review process. All right, we've got a few questions about this phase of the process because we've had some come in about this. All right, so this is the thinking about the transition review meeting, the starting of that process. So the first one is about a child who's moving from reception to year one. We've had a question come in to say, is that reception to year one a phased transition?
No, it's a key stage transition, but it's not a phased transition. You're not moving to a different school.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, you don't. If you're moving from reception to year one, you will not be getting a phased transition meeting.
So the next one, Anna, is my school say that my annual review is not due yet.
Well, you need to go and take them the details that Sarah had in that previous slide. This is what the law says. The law says there must be a meeting, an annual review meeting this term to amend the EHCP ready for the next phase of transfer and for me to name my parental preference school. What the law says. It's the only time the local authority can't leave the entire year before doing the review.
So my child's EHCP was new in the summer term of year 5. Why does it need a review in the autumn term? That's because your child's EHCP is written for the current placement. It's not written for next year, and that's the difference. If your EHCP is written for primary school, you need, that's why the phase transition is the EHCP has to be changed dramatically in order to meet the needs of a child going to the next phase up.
Yeah, and the following on from that, you've got when local authorities say that was a EHCP finalised in the summer term of year 5, yeah. Sometimes EHCPs are being finalised in the autumn term of year 6, so September, October of November of year 6. Should there still be a phased transition review this term if a year 6 EHCP was only finalised in September?
And that this is what parents have a lot of difficulty with. But again, if your EHCP is not written, it's written for the current placement. So you have your phase transition annual review because you need to have that EHCP changed. And we were talking about this earlier on. People are saying, well, what if I have my my EHCP was finalised like before the October half term? And then what would you do, Anna?
Well, it's a difficult one. I know what local authorities are going to want to do, and I know what schools are going to want to do. An annual review is a lot of work for a school, and it's a lot of work for a local authority, and they will want to bypass it if they can. But the law says there should be a transition review. What my worry is your EHCP may well have only been finalised in September or October, but it's been finalised for a primary school placement. So it will talk about things that are about a primary school, not about a massive secondary school where they're moving from teacher to teacher, lessons to lessons, massive dining rooms, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, officially there should be, but I suppose it depends on individual circumstances and how much you want to fight to get it. But at the very, very minimum, if my child was, say, going to the mainstream secondary, you know, I was happy with that. That was appropriate for them. There's got to be a process to name that. So I need to have made sure that I've named it. And if there isn't an annual review this term, if I accept the school and the local authority saying we're not going to do one this term, when is it going to happen? Because they cannot go up to secondary school. They can't start in September with an EHCP that's still written for a primary school. So if not now, when?
Isn't it? Because then you're stuck, and you'll be stuck with an EHCP that's not fit for purpose because it's written for a primary school. So yes, what is the latest date a transition review can take place? That is the 15th, was the 15th of November.
Yeah, sorry, it was the 15th of November because an annual review takes 12 weeks, 3 months to process. So if you track back from the 15th of February, 15th of November, I mean, unless you're working towards the post-16 date of the 31st of March. But as we said before, don't panic. Just because we've missed the 15th of November, it's not the end of the world. As long as it happens, ideally before the end of November, certainly before the 15th of December, it needs to be done, and you need to make sure your Senko is not sitting on it over the Christmas holidays, that it's done and it's sent off to the local authority before the end of term. Local authorities can process an annual review quicker than 12 weeks. So as long as it is done, don't panic too much.
Just a secondary thing, that if your child's in a specialist independent or a specialist school, they're going to have a whole year group that are going through phase transition, and sometimes that does mean that they do run later, but they will be on this because they know they do it all the time. But if you haven't and your child is in a placement such as one of those, go in, discuss it with the Senko, and just say to them, you know, we need to get a wiggle on with this, we need to get moving on it. The last one we've got for this particular session of the questions that we've been asked are: I am at appeal, do I still need a transition review?
Yes, because you will be at appeal. You won't be a phase transfer officially at appeal, and a phase transfer appeal can't start until after the 15th of February, after the next placement is named. So yes, it must still take place, and it will feed into the appeal. It will become, the report from the annual review will become appeal evidence. You'll send it to the tribunal, and you'll use it to update your working document, assuming you're doing a B, F and I appeal. Yeah.